Hello, everyone. Well, we are going to be joined today by the wonderful Mrs. Tonia Tyler. She is in the process of coming on. We are so excited about having her, and she should be showing up any minute. Hello, Tanya. How are you? Can you hear me? Okay, can I hear you? I can't hear you. Just a minute. Okay. Okay, Tanya, I want to have you over here with us, with me on the screen. So, so we have everyone here on the chat, and I am trying to be the technology maven. Please excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Tanya, you're laughing, and we have got to get you up on screen. Okay. So, Tanya, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can't hear you. So, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, hi, I can hear and see you. Can you see Tanya? Ileana, can you see Tanya? Thank you for joining us. Okay. So, Ileana, can you see our wonderful Miss Tyler with us today? No, so you can't see her. Okay. So you can't see or hear her. Okay. Okay. Tanya, well, we have a little bit of a difficulty here. Okay, can you see Miss Tanya? Ah! I'm such a maven here. So, ladies and gentlemen, please just excuse our little technology foo-foo, but we're going to keep on going. I am Fran Strickland here with you. You have on the screen, I believe now, Madame Tanya Tyler. She is podcast royalty. I met Miss Tanya at a networking event, and I can tell you this is a wonderful woman, and I am delighted to have her here with us. Um, now, now that she's on screen, can you all see her and hear her? Tanya, please say something to the folks. Yeah,
Hi. Hey, Miss Coral. I see Miss Coral's in.
yeah, Miss Carl is here. See, this is why, guys, you have to plan like 30 minutes so you can give people like me 5 or 10 minutes to get to where they know what they're doing. I'm just so happy to see everybody, and I'm really, really happy to be here with Tanya. As I said, I met her in another event, just really connected with her. A fantastic woman, great heart, smart as a whip, unflappable, unflappable, and just really committed to helping people get visibility and also helping them be successful. And so today we're going to be getting a chance to glimpse into her life. So Tanya, are you ready? I mean, we're going to get to see your skills on display today. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, Miss Fran, I'm ready. I wish I could see you. I can't see you, my friend. I miss you.
You can't see me? Well, it says I'm supposed to have this screen side by side, but next time I'll do better. Main thing is they can see you. So, Miss Tanya, why don't you start us out by just giving us a little bit of your background?
Oh, okay. Well, Miss Fran, first of all, I want to say thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It's been a pleasure networking with you. You are our unofficial closer on our Friday event. So I want to say shout out because she leaves us with such great motivation for the weekend. So, gets our mind right for the weekend. So, again, thank you for this opportunity for me to come on and speak. A little bit about me, and I'll fast forward a little bit because, I'm 50 plus. So, um, fast fast forward a little bit about like how I got started with the podcast. I retired from the military about 2010. I think it's been like almost 13 years, and I was very structure oriented because of the military. So that like if they want you to think, they would issue the brain kind of thinking, right? So I struggled for a long time trying to figure out what kind of business would I do after I left. So I got hired on, and I was a double dipper, as they say. I was hired on as retiree, and then came back in um, for the service, and I did that for 1 year, and then I couldn't do it another. I could like I can't do another 20 years of this. I served my country. Not saying I didn't love what I did, but I was like I've had enough of doing that, and I was like, well, what does Tanya want to do? So I merely left the business of the government, and I worked for 6 months in the private sector, and I couldn't do that, so I left. And I have to say, blessingly, my husband was very supportive, and he was like, I trust you. You'll find your way. Plus, I had a pension, so it wasn't like we were penniless coming in, right? So he's like he could, we made it work. And so fast forward to 2020. I'm an avid walker. For those who don't know, I get all my clarity when I'm on my walks. And I was on a walk, and I was walking this dog that we had. The dog was not my dog. It was a dog that we got from our neighbor, our older lady across the street. And I'm looking at my this dog, and I'm walking the dog, and my husband doesn't like the dog, but I'm like, you ain't taking this dog away. The dog is mine. I promise this lady we're gonna take care of it. So I'm looking at this dog, and we're getting closer to the everybody shutting down and stuff like that. And I'm like, how do we navigate this new normal? So I started asking questions, as I'm walking. And I was like, if I wanted to be a coach, I know I network with a bunch of people. I was like wondering what they're telling their clients. What are they telling their people, their coaches, the clients and stuff that network. So I ran home real quick because I had this really brilliant idea. I was like, I will ask them. They will be a part of my project, and I will put it out there on YouTube and ask them, what would you tell them clients, right? So that's how the whole thing came about with the podcast. It's like I wanted to be something positive. I used to do social media briefly between that period of when I was trying to discover myself, and I remember this one lady. She was one of my clients for social media, and she was like, yeah, a celebrity. So she was like, I have to sort of hold back on what I say on my platform because I get people coming at her. It's like, but I'm like, you're a celebrity. What's the problem, right? So with
Mhm.
that in mind, I said we all have a platform. You don't have to be a celebrity to have a platform. And so the whole idea, that's where the whole thing was starting to come together. This whole how do we navigate this new normal? How do you create a new platform for people? All these questions were coming up in my mind. And that's how the podcast came about. I just connected with the coaches and clients and asked them if they would be a part of this. I call it project. me interviewing them, and during the pandemic, having something positive for people to see. And the rest, as you say, is history. So we've been going. Now we're going. It'll be April. Will be 4 years we've been doing the podcast. So that's briefly how it is. I have structure. I follow what the universe tells me, and I just go.
Wow, wow. Well, Tanya, that's a fantastic story. You know, sometimes people think that they have to be all systematic, but many times it's just a matter of following that, that little push, that still small voice that's saying, yeah, maybe you try this way. You know, the thing that really impresses me, and I know you've been doing this for 4 years, and you are so possessed and so comfortable in this space. But I can imagine that you had some interesting encounters in doing, like, maybe today. Okay. So, please tell me about, maybe an experience that really, kind of like, caught you by surprise. I mean, you're unflappable, but I can imagine you had that kind of experience. So why don't you share with us a little bit about, how to handle those kind of situations when you really get surprised?
Well, Fred, I have to say, I first of all, I don't do lives, right? For one thing, because I know I will mess up, or and I'm not a perfectionist, but I don't do lives for a couple of reasons. One, I don't like that. I like to have my time, so
Mhm.
I can schedule all my events up ahead of time and then release them. Drip them out as I go, right? So then you get the crowd anticipate. Playlist 15 will be dropping in 2 weeks. You can do all that kind of fun stuff because it's already been recorded. So one of the times that what happens is, how you spend all that time. I used to spend when I used to do all the editing. I used to go on there and I'm trying to make everything right. And I was like, oh my God, this looks great. Then I send it up there, make it go live. I was like, yeah, and I send it to the guests, and they look at it, and I spelled their name wrong. So I'm like, I just spent an hour and I spelled their name wrong. And there's like, because I'm thinking, well, why are they not promoting it? So then when I go back and I was like, oh, the one thing I had to do was just get their name right, and I botched that up. So one time I did go back in there and I tried to apologize as much as I can, and go back in there, and I had to re-edit the whole thing because once you put it up there, it's not like you just go in there into YouTube and rechange it. No, you got to go back to your editing, go into the file, reload the whole thing, and then put everything back up to the YouTube. So the one thing I used to say, if there's nothing else, at least get their name right. So everything else might be wrong. I might mess up on other things, but do not get their name wrong. And that's been my going thing. I don't if I mess up on anything else, the biggest thing is just don't mess up their name.
Mhm, mhm. Wow, wow. Well, I really appreciate the fact that once you discovered it, you corrected it. You could have done the thing. Well, what? Did that happen? And just pretend that it didn't exist. But you did go and correct it. You did go and correct it. So I also know, Tanya, that one of the things that you've been doing is you put together a program for people who want to learn how to do podcasts. So, what should, if somebody wants to do a podcast, what should be their motivation, and how would they get started?
Uh, well, Fran, I would say for me, okay, there's a couple of layers here. First of all, the first layer I had to overcome with was my fear of being on camera. So if you're afraid of being on camera, there's a couple of things you can do. One thing I did do was I had like a 30-day challenge, and I put it on Facebook. Facebook's like your community of friends, right? So I started with a 30-day challenge of me just being on camera. It wasn't long. It could have been like, hi, you see me, I'm down. Just a 30 day, just to see me, just to get past this camera. Once I did that, I connected with another friend, and I would definitely say, if you have a fear, there's, like I said, there's multiple levels, just depending on where you are on your thing. So addressing the fear, because that's the biggest thing that keeps people from doing it. The
Mhm.
best thing I have found that helped me not only do the challenge, but I connected with somebody else. So I partnered up with like a friend. I like Coral's in the group. She's a great example. She partnered up with her business partner, and we that's what I did for like a year, just doing 20-minute interviews with him, and it was just the two of us. It was just Facebook lives, and we just did that. And once I got comfortable, then I was like, that's when the pandemic hit, and I was like, okay, I can do this by myself. So for the longest time, I just looked for accountability partner, somebody who would like hold my feet to the fire. And for many years before we even actually people even knew really what coffee with tea is about, um, I had a YouTube partner, and we would put all like I said, YouTube was my biggest learning platform, and we would put all this effort. You do like 2 hours a week or so, and putting all this editing to make your videos look good, and you put it up to YouTube, and then you have crickets. You're like, it's so disheartening, right? You're like, what am I, chopped liver here? I put all this effort in there. So what happened was my partner and my YouTube, she was like, remember your why. So that's the first thing is like remember why you started it. And so I have it on a whiteboard over here, the three things that I do. So when I don't get the response, or I don't get people on there, or something, I always remember I can look up there. You're helping people gain exposure, and I help them share their story. So I know every time I look at the wall why I'm doing this. So that's the first thing is know why you're doing it. And then I think the why is the key point, and then the how comes into place. So you could partner with other people, or maybe you go live with somebody else. Or another thing you could always do, this is another thing, because the biggest thing is fear. I emphasize it enough. Go on other people's podcasts. You can try it before you start it, because sometimes you might say, you know what, I'm put all this effort. I just rather be a guest. So some people, there's a lot of people who start podcasts and then they go dead. Or like Facebook, people, or not Facebook, they start these YouTube channels and then realize how much work it is, and then they go dead. So I guess, like I said, the biggest thing is know why you're doing it, partner up with somebody, and then when you're ready, just as they say in Nike, just do it. I mean, you can go live on the Facebook group, you can go live on Instagram, you can go, do something. Just start getting your voices, and don't be afraid, because they're gonna here's the beautiful thing. We just had a great conversation, and I'm gonna leave that too. I don't know if I answered that question, but the thing I also learned about doing it is when you know you're onto something, you're going to get critics. People are going to have an opinion about what you do, no matter what. So
Mhm.
you know you've started doing something good. You started when you got critics. So don't think of it as a bad thing. Realize, hey, they whatever I said must have been good enough for me to put on their mental radar. And so that's an achievement right there, because attention is one of the greatest assets that somebody can give you, their attention. So that's the biggest thing. Know your why, partner up with somebody, and just do it.
Mm. That's great advice. And this is exactly what I'm doing is partnering with you because I am definitely afraid of restream, live stream. And the first time I did it with someone. So thank you so much for actually demonstrating what you shared with us here today. For sure, know our purpose. And yes, team up with someone, and someone who is like Tanya, who's unflappable, supportive, and is going to say, now, don't worry about it. But, at the end, it's all good because it's getting out there and getting over your fear of being seen.
Exactly. It's the visibility.
Yeah, yeah. So, so tell us a little bit more about your course. How is that set up? And, how can people get into it if they want to learn from the best?
Well, thank you, Miss Fran. I just want to say I'm offering free one-on-one sessions during the month of February, because my coaching is new. And so I was reading this book. They told me I'm going to suck, just like I started in my podcast. I know I'm going to stink in the beginning, right? So what again I've learned is partner up with people. So I'm offering my course free for those who are looking to partner up with me, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be podcasting. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm retired military, and I shared this a little bit briefly. In the military, we had 14 soldiers, And our soldier, when the soldiers come to you, they're with you for like 3 to 5 years, right? So you're like their end all be all, right? It's like you
Mhm.
got to go to your supervisor first before you go to anybody else. So with that being said, in the military, when I was coaching, I was like, I've struggled for years. Like, what am I? Am I a leadership? Am I podcast? Am I this? So I was like, you know what? Dial it back to the basics, Tanya. What did you do when you were in the military? Because you had to develop leaders, right? So I'm taking it back to the basics. The thing is, for free for a year, for the month of February, you can come on. You get 4 sessions free with me. All I'm asking for from you is feedback to help me improve, and two, a killer testimony. So we sit down, we'll ask you what your goal is. It might be a podcast, it might be start a meetup group and whatever, and then we will sit down and you will tell me, and we will brainstorm together how to come up with a plan to get you there. It's the same thing whether you do the podcast or not. So basically, I'm your podcast sergeant, if you want to say, or your podcast, your leadership sergeant to get you going. And that's basically what my program is about. And I'm just taking it back to the basics. Because like I said, in the military, I was like the leadership NCO one day, I was a relationship NCO one day, and we just had to get you the resources that you need. And so I'm taking it back to the basics of what they taught me in the military. I'm your accountability partner, I'm your problem solver, and we'll get a roadmap to where you need to go.
Wow. Wow. Now that is certainly a gift. I would highly recommend, because I'm sitting here saying, oh, I want to be like Tanya when I grow up. So to be able to spend, a month with you with those sessions and to be able to sit at your feet and benefit from your experience and your heart, that's what's I think is so moving. Just the heart to help people get to where they want to be. That's a tremendous gift. So I'm looking now at the chat to see if we have any questions. We don't have any questions, and we have about 7 minutes left. But I want to make sure that people can know how to see you, how to be able to access your podcast. What can you tell us about that so that you can have lots of people in your audience?
Well, I will. I am on LinkedIn, so you can always connect with me on LinkedIn at Tanya Tyler. I think I'll send them information to Fran. So definitely connect with Fran, because if you connect with Fran, you connect with me. My podcast is called Coffee with Tea. I have a page also on LinkedIn with under Confidence Rise, which is my business. So my website is Confident Strides. That's CONFIDENTSTRIDES.com. Confident Strides. And you'll see all of my stuff over there.
Okay, confident strides. Okay. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to be in there paging through and finding all the information because I happen to learn by watching other people. And when I see other people do, I say, well, perhaps I can do it. So maybe I should go over there and find somebody who does restreaming.
Fran, you're doing an awesome job. I love what you're doing. And so I'm so, like I said, this was an honor to be learning what you do, see what you're doing, and I'm connected with you because I know you do the profitability. So yeah, you are on my list to connect with too, my girlfriend.
Well, thank you so much, Tanya. It's just been my great pleasure to be here with you, to have you on screen. You look lovely. You've given us some great tips. Those tips about how we get over our fear and, like you say, just do it. That applies in just about anything that you want to do when you're just starting out. So you've given us some very rich advice, and we also know how to get to your podcast, see what you do, get a chance to work with you. How much more can we possibly ask from this lovely lady? And to all those who join us for this live, it is live, not for all of you who've joined us, so appreciate that you've come and you've been with us, that you've gotten some value from this conversation, and definitely you will see us again. I'm sure you will see me. I'm sure you'll see Tanya. And please make sure take advantage of it because this lady is really just fantastic. So thank you so much. That's all we have today. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Fran. It's been a pleasure.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.